All right, Blueprint. Welcome to our Life After AmeriCorps interview series. I am here today with a very special guest, and we're going to talk a little bit about returning for second years of service. And so, last but not just to kind of kick things off, I'm Ilyas. I am your AmeriCorps program coordinator, serving you, the AmeriCorps members across all of our regions. And to my left here, I have Mr. If you could introduce yourself, Charlie, your region that you serve in, and then your role, that would be amazing.
Sure. My name is Charlie Levinson, and I am a site manager with the East St. Louis Math Fellows Program.
Awesome. Charlie, as we, kind of talk to our core members today about, the benefits of returning for a second year of service, and what that can do for them. How about we start things off? And I'm going to ask you a question. So if you could, please express, how you believe, returning for a second year could, really the type of impact that could have on a first year fellow or someone considering returning for a second year. May it be, to serve in the same role as a math fellow, or even taking that additional step and coming back as a lead fellow?
I think that having a second year in a role that is as challenging and as full as the Math Fellows role is really invaluable. I think that fellows grow so much and learn so much over the course of their first year, and they become highly effective, but they certainly don't start the year that way through no fault of their own. It's a complex and challenging role. And so I think that having a second year, whether you're a returning fellow or taking on additional responsibilities as a lead fellow, I think having a second year to really implement all of the skills that you've learned and giving you a chance to really shine in the role is super valuable. Obviously, it's valuable for the students. You're just going to be more effective your second year than you were your first, but also for yourself, because you can kind of personalize the role a little bit and start to focus on elements of it that you think might play into whatever it is that you're doing next, whether you want to become a teacher and you want to hone the skills that you noticed were some of your gaps in your first year, or if you want to go into, other elements of education or working, with communities, you can kind of start to chart your own path. There's still a ton of growth to happen in the second year. So you're gonna benefit immensely. I mean, that's what growth is. So.
Absolutely. And Charlie, I couldn't agree more myself. Having served as a AmeriCorps member, not once, but twice, the amount of growth that, I experienced from between year one, year two, not just as a professional, but just as a person, was definitely invaluable to my life. So I too encourage members to, definitely come back and serve that second year, because it does prepare you for future success in whatever role or journey you might take, and it could too have a tremendous impact on your life. And so, with that being said, Charlie, what qualities do you think that a core member or fellow that is serving right now would need to possess in order to make sure they're an exemplary second year returner next year, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the first quality would just be excitement to continue the work. If you enjoyed the first year, if you felt energized by it, if you want to do more, I mean, I think that's all you really need is that quality, and then you're going to come back, swinging and ready to start the second year. I think also if you have some sense of, self-awareness and ability to self-reflect, ability to sort of say, like, these are the things that I think I've done well, or that my site manager has said I've done well. And these are the things that I still need to work on, so that you can sort of take ownership of that. I think having that awareness is really valuable. Obviously, being an effective youth worker and educator is valuable, but you can continue to build on those skills. I believe all of those things can be learned. So really, I think it's about mindset. If your mindset is in a place where you're ready to come back and do it again and do it even better, then you will. And I think second year, third year fellows really enjoy that opportunity.
For sure. You have to love or have some sort of level of fondness for what you're doing. And I think, when you do, that shows, and, it's leaps, the experiences leaps and bounds for the people receiving the services in the field. And so thank you for sharing your response to that answer. I, really agree 100%. And so from your experience, if I'm a current AmeriCorps member, what steps would you suggest that I take to, perhaps pursue this opportunity, or, to kind of get my name out there if I'm interested in returning?
Yeah, first thing I would say is express that interest to your site manager. That's an obvious first step. And also, we still have a couple of months left, or at least a number of weeks left in this school year. So like I, as a site manager, am starting to think about next year and thinking about my team, and I'm starting to talk to principals and teachers and so on and so forth. And I would hope that any returning or next year lead fellow would also start thinking about next year and thinking, what are the things that I can shore up in these last few weeks? And what are sort of the goals that I can set for myself? Is there anything that I can be doing over the summer to push myself even further and really feel prepared going into the second year? So, the beauty of the AmeriCorps program in its entirety is that it's both service, externally to others, but it's also an opportunity for professional development. So you've got time right now, right? We're not coasting to the end of the school year, but we're kind of at the point where it's like, we're developed, we're in it, we're doing it, we're just going to teach straight through, and that should feel fairly consistent and predictable at this point. So what can you do within that time frame to push yourself even further? I would encourage fellows to ask themselves that question and ask their site managers that question very candidly. So those conversations can happen.
Awesome. And I would agree, as Charlie just said, we're in those few months. And a lot of times, this could also be an opportunity in the space to have those conversations with, other site managers, and really try to figure out, get a well-rounded idea of, what that perfect candidate would look like, just to start adding those things if you're not already to your toolbox, and just as you prepare yourself for next year, and, hopefully returning back as a blueprint math fellow or lead fellow. And so last but not least, is there any advice that you would like to leave with, AmeriCorps members, beginning their very own life after AmeriCorps journey, whether it be returning or leaving? Any last, nuggets of advice?
Yeah, I think, I was an AmeriCorps member for my first year out of college, not with Blueprint, it was with a different organization, but in the sphere of education. And I felt like I grew a lot through that opportunity, and then was trying to figure out my next steps. And my recommendation would be to really take some time right now. And again, sometimes this happens best through conversations with others, because others can challenge you through questions, but to start thinking about, like, what are your core values? What are the things that you are looking for in a next step? it can be very easy to feel like you need to settle on the first opportunity that comes by. And instead you should be thinking about what are my like non-negotiables that I really want to have in the next phase of my career? What are some nice to haves that I can go for? But it, you got to be able to articulate this from that. And you may not have a ding, 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 this is the job for me, this is the goal, this is the be all end all. I certainly never had that, and I think a lot of people don't. So instead, you want to think more about what are the differences between my hard nose, I'm not going to do that path, that job, that career, versus my not nose. Like, I'm not saying no to that, but I need to sort of think more, explore more, start to ask around and network and connect and all of those pieces. And it may sound like a ton of work. I think figuring out next steps in this sort of big, high level way is a lot of work. But if you invest the time, you're going to find yourself in a really good place, and you're going to be grateful for the work that you put in. Ask for help. That'll help for sure.
Man, I think that was a very beautiful way to kind of put that, right? I wish I'd known that when I was leaving my AmeriCorps year, to really, put those things in buckets, because if there's one thing that I've learned throughout my own career journey, been in education and nonprofit for 10 years now, is that you're never done figuring, being on that path, right? And growing in a professional space, right? One day you might think you want to be a teacher for the rest of your life, and then you might experience something that puts something in you that, man, I want to become an entrepreneur and I want to spend the next 5 years in business. You're never done growing, you're never done evolving, and keep those options open, and be honest with yourself very early on in your career. It'll be just fine. But with that being said, Charlie and myself, we talked about everything. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be right back at you with another video. See you soon. Peace.
Thanks, fellows. Peace.